Hey everyone, we are back again with another how-to video for selling on Amazon. Today we're going to cover sending product to Amazon. We'll do by the carton and also by the pallet. I am Mathue from NV Born Games. I have an indie publishing company, and I'm joined today by
Becky from Rainbow Rabbits Games, also have an indie publishing company. And shall we just
Go Indie Publishers.
go indie publishers? We do it all. We wear all the hats, including shipping stuff to Amazon. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
You can?
Yes, I
Oh,
can see it.
usually it has a red bar around it. So I'm just gonna go through the process. I'm gonna just send one today because I actually just replenished inventory not too long ago.
Okay.
But for the purposes of this, oops, get out of here.
Uh-oh. Aging inventory.
That's okay.
No, you're still in a healthy range there
Yeah.
with your
So
inventory.
I want to go to send to Amazon from the top. Make sure that it is United States, which is good. I don't want to send anything to Canada right now. Everything
Oh yeah.
is already set up. So I guess it's the first time you set it up, let me just grab my box here. Usually when you get something from your printer, it'll come in a standard case of, if you get 2,000 copies, you'll get like 20 boxes that are exactly the same dimensions, have the same product in it, blah, blah, blah. So you can usually just set up a box. So this is called my What's Game box, and all the dimensions are already there.
Hey,
So
I
it's
work with them
lovely.
sometimes. Make
Yeah.
sure your address is right too. I moved and then like had my old address at one point, so I had to
Oh,
change that around sometimes. But that's an easy thing to change. But I'll
that's
blur that.
actually, yeah. Oh yeah, that's also a good prompt because I accidentally like changed all my defaults to be my mom's house in Canada. And so like I
Okay.
was doing this and it was like $2,000 to ship it. I was like, $2,000? It used to only be 60. And then I
What is
realized,
happening?
yeah, I realized, oh no, this is shipping from Niagara Falls. Um,
Well, why don't you pretend to make a new box, like if you were adding a cart,
oh,
and just so since it's already saved there, if you hit that little, I think, pencil,
this
you can kind of
pencil.
show them that process a little bit. Yeah, here you go.
So pretend I'm making a new box. I give it my
Yeah.
title.
Hmm.
You can choose if it's a pallet or a case pack. This is a case pack. We will show you pallet after. How many units are in a box? And then these are the dimensions. I believe they prefer highest to lowest. So it's not like length, width, height. It's biggest
Right.
number, smallest number, and then how much the box weighs. And then they have an option for prep versus no prep. And basically, I'm using my manufacturer's barcode. So I'm good. All my products have a barcode on the back that Amazon recognizes and they can scan it in and everything is good. And I believe it's also on the outside of my box. It's not, but that's okay.
Right.
Um,
And I just want to point out the whole barcode thing. In my
yeah,
last video, kind of had some issues with the UPC. This is where that issue can come into affect you as well. Is if you don't have your own that they can just scan in, then you have to have them prepare it for you. And I think it's like 40 cents a unit or something like that. It's
yeah,
been a while since I've done that. And that really adds up when you're sending in. I think your carton was 48 units in one box.
yeah, 40.
So,
Yeah, that's significant.
right. You want to keep your fees as low as possible. So that's just something to be mindful of. I wanted to mention it since since it just came up.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I would say like if you need prep, then maybe you need to go back and revisit how you want to send things to Amazon and never need prep ever again.
Yeah. You can even pre-sticker your own boxes so then it's already prepped as well.
Yeah.
And you would just print out barcodes that Amazon supplies you. There's a process to that too. I've done that before, but there's a way around that as well.
Yes. Luckily though, we don't have to do that today. I'm just gonna send one
Right.
box because like I said, uh, and it's just already ready to send because what I usually do is I open the box up, I do an inspection, and I usually inspect the top, the games in every corner, because those are the
Mm,
places where like if that box got thrown around during shipping to me, those are the ones that are going to be damaged.
right.
Um, and so usually if you're a store and you get a box from me and some of the things are shipped like flipped upside down, that's because I did my little inspection. Um, but that is it. And then I just
Quality control.
quality control, yeah. Confirm and continue. And then recommended shipment option is what I'm going to go with.
Yes, it's always the cheapest.
Yeah. Unless you have your preferred vendor. I've literally never seen a preferred vendor that is a better deal. I can actually ship this out today because I'm a maniac. And it's going to pull up the carrier, but I believe it's always
It's
12 bucks.
UPS.
These prices are actually like, if I was to send 8, these prices get better and better. But and this is actually like, can you imagine sending that huge box, 20 pounds for 12 bucks anywhere?
Right. So they have, obviously Amazon has better pricing for you to send product into them, especially when you're using their partner carrier.
Yeah.
The only time I haven't used their partner carrier was a couple weeks ago when the UPS was, I thought everyone was going to go on strike because they're having issues. So I actually used USPS because I knew I could deliver to them and they would do it. And it's a slightly different process where I had to print out my own codes and then put them into the system with each there's 2 barcodes they give you, or 2 printouts that they give you.
Yeah.
And I had to match them up and make sure they were right and then send them in. But yeah, it's usually easiest to just use UPS.
Yeah. In Canada, if I was shipping this to Canada, there isn't a preferred partner, so I would have had to do what you are talking
Okay.
about. Yeah. Or I guess maybe if you're a Canadian seller located in Canada, they just didn't have the international.
So, and then you just click accept charges.
And then I'm going to do 4x6 thermal printing because I have a little device called the Josie.
Mine is it's the Dymo label writer 4XL.
Pretend I'm printing something.
Okay. So anyways, you would click print and then a label prints out.
Here, maybe if I print it, I can at least show what it looks like.
Could pull someone out of my printer as well. There you go.
There you go. So this will print out. I stick it on the top. It needs both. So this is sort of like the label for UPS, and this is the label for fulfillment by Amazon for them to know where to stick it on the shelves.
Yep.
And that is.
And they want those side by side.
Yeah.
On the box when you place them. But with the printers we're talking about, there's a paper you can put through, and it's a sticker paper basically, and they're 4x6s, and it'll just print each one out, and you just peel it off and put it onto the boxes, and each box would get there's like Becky was saying, the Amazon one and the UPS label as well.
Yeah, and if I was doing multiple, it would say box 1 of 2, box 1 of, or sorry, box 2 of 2, and then you just need to make sure that this number here matches this number here on each of them. That's all there is to it. And then later on, you can view the tracking details, and it'll kind of, it's right now it says confirmed. I think once I drop it off and it gets scanned in, it'll say like received. And then there is, I don't think it's in this exact area, but
I think if you go up more, you click shipments and then manage shipments.
there you go.
And then yeah, it shows you kind of your history of things you sent in, and then yeah, you can track the shipment.
Yeah. So I think right now it's not gonna say anything, but it gives you all these statuses.
In transit and then delivered and check-in, and yeah, it rarely updates so like really accurately as well in my experience, especially with pallets, but yeah.
And let me just open another one just to see if you can kind of just like get a sense of the timeline. So, I created my shipment, I shipped it the next day, I got scanned in the next day. It took a while, I guess, for the carrier to upload their details. That seems like typical anyway. Like if I had gone to FedEx with these boxes, the same thing would have happened. It got to its destination, and then it took about a month for them to fully get all the product everywhere, because you ship it to one central location, and then they end up shipping it out further so that it's closer to, it's at fulfillment warehouses closer to where they're seeing, I guess, like historical purchases from. So, but usually by this time, like June 2nd, if you were out of games, it will say like, it will give you a number of games that they think they could confidently start to fulfill so people could start ordering again.
Yeah. And you want to be sending it to one location because then you're not paying for them to ship it to all the other locations.
Yeah.
So thanks,
I think
Amazon.
That's it for that, right? Do we want to hop into
Yeah, the single
Pallet?
shipments, it's pretty simple, straightforward process. And then to do a pallet, I'll go into it from a different angle than you did. But again, there's multiple ways to get the things on Amazon, but I will share screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, so I mean, the way I normally do it is go to inventory and all inventory, and then I can see my listings, and I'll just click this little button here next to edit and send/replenish inventory. So it's just another way to get to it. And then again, it has all my stuff already saved in here. Make sure your address is correct, like I was saying before. It shows you the product. We went over creating a case. If you, for whatever reason, want to send in like a carton that's not this normal case size, you can do that as well, where you're like, oh, I just had 10 random ones laying around. I put in a different box, you can do that as well. But for pallet, I have a full pallet option already made up, or you could even I could do one case of Don't Get Drunk and just put 84 boxes, which would be 504 units, which is the amount of pallets, or the amount that I can fit on a pallet. Because Amazon does have requirements for how tall and wide and things like that the pallets can be. You can also see here, it shows you kind of like recommended a quantity that they want you to send in. I've tried to send in more before and they'll actually deny it, but I think I'll be okay with this one because it's been selling really well overall this year. But I have had times where I tried to send in more than they recommended and they denied it, but I think in this case I'd be okay. So if I hit boxes, 504, ready to send, confirm and continue. My SKUs are all ready. I don't have to put the barcodes on them or the stickers. They're all good. And then my ship date. So this is the date that I would have the product ready for pickup. I could put Friday, but they're not going to send when it comes to pallets. Obviously, they're going to come to location, pick it up, but it's whatever they can manage. I've had it where I scheduled it for like the 25th, and then it took like 2 weeks for them to show up, or they didn't show up 1 week when they said they did. There was some issues with it, but it's a lot cheaper to send in units by the pallet if you're purchasing the amount that are being purchased warrants it, because you can save a lot of money with your shipping. So I'll just click 25th for be ready, and then it's going to let me pick between small parcels and less than truckload LTL, and that's what I'm going to pick for the pallet. So you can see if I was just shipping in by the carton, it would cost me $373.60 in shipping fees. But instead, I'm sending in a pallet, so I qualify for the LTL shipping. And then it shows you, where it's coming from, where it's going. It's sending it to literally like a location in Dallas, which I could just put it in my truck and take it myself, kind of thing, and make life a lot easier. But Amazon doesn't operate like that, I guess. Or if they do, it's something I don't know yet. So I'll click confirm shipping destination. All right. So with the pallet, how Becky just kind of showed you the labels for an individual carton, I still need to put those. I still need to put a label on each one of my cartons that I'm sending into Amazon. So again, I would click the thermal printer 4x6, and then I would click print. And what I actually do is, I don't know why my printer is set up a little weird. I actually download mine and then I print them from the download, or I can now print this. I can now print this at a later date if I want to. from here, continue to carrier and pallet information. You click confirm carrier and pallet information, and then what they're going to do is they're going to give you 4 more labels that are separate from the labels you're putting onto your cartons. So it's 4 little labels. And after you wrap your pallet, they want you to put these labels on each side of the outside of the pallet. And they're separate from the ones you're putting on the box. And that just gives them information about the pallet that's being sent in. There's also a BOL, bill of lading, I believe is what it means, but I'll show previous shipments. Like the last pallet I sent in right here, you can see it was the same exact 540 units. So that's why I'm like, it worked before. It's still receiving it. But basically you go in here, it shows you when you created it, then you can get a bill of lading. So you want to print this out and you have to give this to the driver. It's real simple. It's just a piece of paper like this, and you just give it to the driver when they arrive.
What do you think lading means?
Bill of lading.
It's weird.
And it shows picked up, in transit, delivered, checked in. And then it shows you, as Becky was mentioning, where they start to send it to different destinations. These are all the different destinations that they were sending copies of Don't Get Drunk to when I sent in my last pallet. And they're still not finished with it because they haven't closed out this order yet. So you can see when they've really send every unit, then they just click the closed status. So you can see this one says working because we didn't confirm it or finish the pallet. And then these ones are things that we shipped already that we're waiting on to get picked up or still in transit, or the transit information hasn't been updated. And then receiving, they're still receiving some of the units. This one has received 94. I don't know why it's not closed out yet. 94 out of 94. I'm saying, like, it's not a perfect system where everything's updated like to the minute. And to be honest, I don't, as long as my stuff gets in stock and is selling, I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much how to send in. What's up?
Wasn't gonna ask a question, but you were talking.
Yeah, what's the question?
Well, so I've never done a pallet before. Are there rules? Like, does it have to be a wood pallet? Can it be a plastic pallet? Where do you get a pallet from to do that? What kind of saran wrap do you use?
Great questions. Let me stop sharing screen because then we'll both be bigger on the screen, and I can show some stuff that I have.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to unblur my screen too. I'll do that. But anyways, so the pallets, I have pallets on hand because I receive all my inventory. I have my inventory ocean freighted to me, and then I keep it in storage units instead of a warehouse somewhere else where I'm paying storage fees and stuff like that. It's just the way that it works for me. I have access to my inventory. I can take it to conventions. I can send it into Amazon as I need. Warehouses can do this as well. Just there's other expenses and stuff like that. And I do my own self-fulfillment, so that's why I have it sent to me. But when I fulfill stuff, then I have extra pallets laying around. So I just reuse those pallets. I've used wooden and plastic pallets before with Amazon. I do know that they have rules on how like tall and apparently how heavy your pallet can be, as we just saw. I'll have to double check those because maybe it changed since I sent in the last pallet, but you could see it was the exact same amount of units I was trying to send in, and there was no issue before. So it's just one of those things you're going to be like, all right, well, let me figure out what's going on here. And then the thing that I use to wrap the pallet, I'll be right back.
Cut. Just kidding.
But once you get your pallet all built up, there's these giant saran wrap, stretch wraps, to wrap things. So with the there's 2 little handles on the side. Usually I will rip off a piece of this, so it's, or pull it off, stick it underneath like a carton on the bottom, and wrap the bottom layer, and then just start to work my way up and over and around in all kinds of different ways in one rotation. And I'll wrap it like 3-4 times because otherwise it's going to be wobbly. You really want to wrap it good so it's secured and doesn't get damaged or fall apart when it's in transit. But these are like I think I actually bought this one on Black Friday because it was on sale, because these things are like 40 or 50, $60 sometimes.
Oh,
Um, but I usually get, like 4 or 5 pallet wraps out of these. But that's what you wrap it on. Once it's wrapped, that's when you put those 4 specific labels on the outside of it. I usually print out an extra bill of lading, and I take like a Ziploc bag and I'll put it in the Ziploc bag and tape that to my pallets. And I'll also give the driver a copy of the bill of lading as well. It's probably not needed, but I just take an extra step to do that. And then also another way to find pallets is just go on like Facebook Marketplace or,
mm.
something like Craigslist. People give them away. Like I was giving them away because I had so many at one point before I moved. And then also, people sell them for like $2, $5. So not like a huge amount. And then you would just obviously need to be able to pick it up. But I used to prepare them in my garage. And then when they would show up, I would just open my garage and they would come in and take it. Now where I'm staying currently, it doesn't have a garage, and I'll just prepare it on like a little side yard porch area that I have now, and I throw a tarp over it till they arrive. I could probably do it with a storage unit as well, but my experience with Amazon picking stuff up is they have no communication when they're going to show up. They're just like, well, it's going to show up this day, and sometimes they don't, which is really frustrating. But yeah, my experience is that they don't really communicate. You have no idea when they're going to show up. So schedule it for a day where you think you're going to be home most of the day. If you are going to do it.
I feel like that's also receiving stuff for the first time, like after it gets out of customs and hits the States and whatever. Yeah. They're always like, the windows are always like, it's the day, and you're like, cool.
Yeah, that like was my last game, Mind Your Business. I'm not like mad about it, but it arrived 2 weeks early. They're like, oh yeah, we're delivering it today. I was like, oh, okay. Like I'm off, so that's okay. But like I was expecting it in 2 weeks from now. But all right, cool, thanks. But I'll also because I also arrange my own ocean freight, when I have my freight forwarder, I'll like message them, be like, please make sure whoever truck company you're using to deliver it the last day contacts me day of, or the day, at least a day before or something. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But I always try, and sometimes they want to charge you for that and other stuff, but yeah. So, or if you're just having it sent to a warehouse, you don't have to worry about it. That's a warehouse problem,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I haven't done that. Pretty much.
I'm the same as you. I get it delivered to my house.
Yeah, I think you made a TikTok where you're like made a video where you're like pulling it up from the sidewalk up. You had like a bunch of steps and stuff.
Yeah, I try to tell them that I do have a back like driveway, but it's a very busy street, and the trucks don't want to back into it just because, and I tell them like send a smaller truck, and sometimes they send the most massive truck. It'll be like my thing's the only thing in it. And so they tried once, and I live on a hill, like a very steep grade. So one time they parked on the road on top of the hill, and it took an hour of snaking back and forth. It's a ton, basically, to like get it back to my backyard. And then the other time the guy's like, no, hell no, I'm not doing that. He's like, I also have I have to make my next shipment at 5. And I'm not pulling it up the hill. And I was like, all right, I guess just dump the pallet on the street, and I'll just take the next 3 hours and just like one box at a time up 3 flights of stairs.
You got your workout on that day.
I really did.
But yeah, that's pretty much how you send in product to Amazon. Then it will show up in your if you go to your inventory, it'll show you how many you have in there. And it starts to give you information too about like when you should send in or how much inventory you have left based off how many sales you're having and things like that. It will recommend you to send inventory in. Sometimes I've had big sales spikes where I couldn't anticipate it, and then I'm out of inventory, but when I do that, I'll arrange a pallet, but I'll also send in like 10 or 15 just individual cartons so I can get my inventory back in stock. So the listing's selling, because it's not great when you don't have product selling and you're listing. I don't know if it does hurt it, but I feel like it's better to just have stuff available to be for sale as much as possible.
Yeah, you should give yourself a 2-week lead time. So like if you sell on average 50 games a week, you need to start prepping your next shipment into them when you hit the 100, only 100 units left mark.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I'm kind of prepping. That's why I'm going to send in a pallet of Don't Get Drunk too. Just like, I think it's a little early, but I'm just going to do it just because last time there was some issues and I was out of stock for a few weeks. So I'm like, you know what? I think it's selling well enough that I won't be hit with like any long-term storage fees and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna send it in.
Yeah.